Not long ago, the biggest games in the industry came from the biggest studios. The formula seemed simple: more developers, more money, more technology, more success. If a company had a larger budget, it could build a larger game. And for years, that seemed true. But something strange has happened in the gaming industry. Some of the most successful and beloved games in recent years haven't come from massive studios. They've come from small teams, sometimes a handful of developers, sometimes a single person. And in many cases, they've outperformed games that cost hundreds of millions of dollars to make. So why are indie games winning? Part of the answer is freedom. Large studios face enormous pressure. When a company invests hundreds of millions into a project, failure is not an option. Investors expect profits. Publishers want predictable results. That pressure often leads to safer decisions: sequels, remakes, established franchises, familiar ideas. The goal is to minimize risk. Indie developers operate differently. Without giant budgets to protect, they can experiment. They can build unusual mechanics, strange worlds, and ideas that larger companies might reject immediately. Some fail, but when an idea works, it can feel fresh in a way many blockbuster games struggle to achieve. Players notice that. Many gamers are starting to feel that modern gaming has become predictable. Open worlds, battle passes, microtransactions, daily rewards, and endless checklists have become common across the industry. The games may look different, but they often feel similar. Indie games frequently offer something different: a new mechanic, a unique art style, a strange concept, a memorable experience. They remind players that games can still surprise them. Another advantage is speed. Large productions can spend 6 or 7 years in development. By the time they launch, trends may have changed, player interests may have shifted, technology may have evolved. Indie teams can often move much faster. They can respond to feedback quickly and adapt when necessary. That flexibility has become increasingly valuable. The internet has also changed everything. Years ago, indie developers struggled to reach players. Without a publisher, success was difficult. Today, a great game can spread across YouTube, Twitch, Reddit, and social media almost overnight. Players discover hidden gems and share them with friends. Word of mouth has become one of the most powerful marketing tools in gaming. And unlike expensive advertising campaigns, it can't be bought, it has to be earned. There is also the issue of expectations. When players buy a blockbuster game, they expect perfection. Every bug becomes a headline. Every missing feature becomes a controversy. Every disappointment becomes a public discussion. Indie games often enter the market with different expectations. Players focus on whether the experience is fun, rather than whether every graphical detail is perfect. As a result, smaller games are sometimes judged more generously than their larger competitors. Artificial intelligence may accelerate this trend. Small teams now have access to tools that can help with coding, art, testing, and content creation. Tasks that once required entire departments may eventually be handled by a handful of people. That could make independent development even more powerful. The gap between small teams and large studios may continue to shrink. Of course, AAA games are not disappearing. Many players still love blockbuster experiences. Huge worlds, spectacular graphics, cinematic stories. Those games will continue to exist. But the balance is changing. For decades, success in gaming seemed tied to size. Bigger budgets, bigger teams, bigger projects. Today, players are discovering that bigger doesn't always mean better. Sometimes the most memorable experiences come from a small studio with a unique idea and the freedom to take risks. And in an industry increasingly dominated by massive productions, that may be exactly why indie games are winning.